Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever, and due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Monday. It's a Back to Work Monday edition, Dom. You look excited.
Get after
you
it.
look ready to get after
Oh,
it.
man, I am rested and ready to go. Good to see you, Nate, working hard today. Thank you. I had a blast Civic Media Christmas party. Where were we at? The Dells? The Del Boca Vista, Chula Vista? Where? Oh, it was a great time. Thank you, Sage and Aaron, everyone putting the thing together, and had a great time talking with lots of folks. Good to see you, man, too. Even you, Crudy.
Well, I snuck out early. Went back to the Love Shack, if you know what I'm saying.
So great time and ready to go, man. The news over the weekend, what continues to unfold here in the state of Wisconsin, around the country. Yeah, man, I'm fired up.
Fired up, ready to go. You will be very excited. This might be a very good show.
Yeah, it might be. You're gonna have to stick around and fight. You have to wait till the end, or really before you can judge. Just a couple hours, folks.
Well, I'm a little cynical, but it might be. It might be a really good show, but you do have to stick around for all 2 hours. But Dom, here's a question I've asked once or twice in my life. Legally, if you're crafting a legal defense, is it better to admit you got it wrong, or Plan B, hamburger A, I just got it wrong. I got it wrong, or Plan B, I got tricked. I was tricked, I tell you.
Oh man, I don't know. You know me, man. I'd rather ask for forgiveness than for permission. But can you? I don't know, man. What would you do? I want your opinion.
Well, maybe I would make this confession. I got it slightly wrong. I would take the tack of U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. I mean, it's been working for Ron. Why not me?
I mean, Ron Johnson is not a role model, kids.
According to AJ Bayatpour over at the CBS 58, your hometown station in Milwaukee, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson says his previous comments about the fake electors were slightly wrong.
Slightly wrong.
I think I got something slightly wrong once, Tom.
One time? I know, but even that, come on, man. Slightly wrong? Aren't you either wrong or you're not wrong? You're wrong, you're right. Right? I mean, gray area, maybe. You know, like I'm slightly short. You're slightly fat. You know,
Come on, that hurts.
Can you be slightly pregnant? You know, slightly wrong, Ron. Slightly wrong. Because what was this all about? This was about Ron going on the CNN with Caitlin Collins and saying, hey, you know, Dems have been doing this all the time. Dems, these false electors. And Caitlin Collins, a fine journalist, rightfully says, well, what do you mean? And Ron's like, oh, check the book. You know, that whole conversation. Now Ron's saying, but he's slightly wrong. Yes.
This is not some theoretical conversation about whether or not it's apt and just to, you know, put forth a fake slate of electors, Tom. You know, even though he might have gotten that part slightly wrong. Let's not forget he is kind of up to his albino eyebrows. And it is quite feasible Donald Trump's buddy Ron Johnson here is putting up something of a pre-bait, a pre-legal defense. You know, he just got it slightly wrong, Dom, but at some point, will Ron Johnson have to answer for the larger question, not just, you know, procedurally, did he get it slightly wrong, or is it the underlying coup effect if he'd gotten it right?
He
Him and
was
Trump.
the because if I recall some of the testimony, right? The Republican from Wisconsin who brought these fraudulent documents down to DC, right? She reacted like, "Oh my God, I just feel like I was in a drug deal." I've been
Yes.
in a couple of drug deals in my life, Crudy, and I understand what she's talking about. So if you feel like that, you're probably doing something you shouldn't be doing. That's why you said what you said. But that was to get down to DC. And wasn't Rojo? He was the volunteer. He was the bagman. He got to get it from A to B, but they ain't got to get it from B to C. And
Well,
that's
just for a
Rojo
second.
was going to do that, right? Rojo
Maybe a
these people are
minute.
calling up, say, "Hey, Vice President Pence is
Certainly not longer than a month or two.
No, I mean, I'm on the phone. I can't talk right now. So he volunteered. He was going to be bagman number 2 to provide these to the vice president. Of course, vice president staff, as we know, said, "Don't bring those over here."
No.
But
Hey,
nobody
why not?
knew nothing. No one knew about the grand conspiracy, right? No one knew. Did Andrew Hitt know? And what did he know? And when did he know it?
Dom, is it legally better to get it slightly wrong or to be tricked? Let's start with Ron's version of the truth. Over at CBS 58, Osh Vegas, Dateline, Senator Ron Johnson said Friday claims he made earlier in the week about Democrats having used fake slates of presidential electors were slightly wrong, but defended the bulk of his comments. During an interview with CNN Monday night, Johnson was asked whether he supported Bob Spindell continuing as a state elections commissioner after his involvement as one of the 10 Republicans who signed as a fake elector for Donald Trump in 2020. There have been alternative slate of electors by Democrats in our history, Johnson said. Again, that wasn't what this interview was going to be about. I'll come and provide you the information. Now, Johnson's team posted to social media 4 previous responses. Democrats had 2 presidential elections. 3 of those examples, Dom, involved some Democrats attempting to block the certification of a state's electoral votes. But those did not involve the creation of an alternative slate of electors. And the one relevant comparison, Hawaii 1960, we've talked about this, there was a margin of less than 200 votes. The results of the recount swung the state from then Vice President Richard Nixon to John F. Kennedy. So with less than 200 votes and a recount actually being, conducted, Hawaii might be some sort of a start point. But I think the slightly wrong part is the criminality that goes on from there.
Well, you have to infer that, Crudy. We don't know yet. There's not been an investigation here in Wisconsin that we know of. But let's not forget Senator Ron Johnson, based on this initial statement with Caitlin Collins on CNN, and then his team's posted responses. What was it? PolitiFact said false. 3 of them, as mentioned, aren't even the same thing. The one that is even remotely close in the circumstances and the situation that was actually occurring on the ground when this happened was not even close to being what was going on here in the state of Wisconsin.
Do you want to hear the quote from Ron, or do you want to take the?
I'll jump on. I'll jump on this one. Again, this one from CBS58.com. AJ Batpour reporting on Friday. Johnson acknowledged that there hadn't been widespread Democratic use of fake electors, but he also stood by most of his remarks. Here's a quote from Rojo. "First of all, what I said was largely true, okay? It was a gotcha question." What is that, like a question like you don't want to answer? So that's automatically the gotcha question. I mean, if you come on, generally, we do this. Like, what are you talking about? I got a couple of topics I want to talk about, then we'll see where it goes. Gotcha question. It's only gotcha because you answered it very poorly. First of all, what I said was largely true. Okay, it was a gotcha question. I came onto the show and talked about border and Ukraine funding, and they asked me about this. I was slightly wrong because there had been alternate electors of Democrats. Now, in Wisconsin, Republican electors gathered at state capitol to sign on as Trump electors after a recount upheld Biden's had won the state by more than 20,000 votes. The electors maintained they were following legal guidance to submit an elector slate in case a legal challenge was successful. But by that day,
was tricked.
By that day, that's what Hitt says, all of Trump's lawsuits had been rejected. Again, by that day, when they went to sign those fraudulent documents. Earlier this month, Wisconsin fake electors, GOP fake electors, they settled a lawsuit in part acknowledging their efforts were used to try to overturn an election Biden had won. Burden said neither Hawaii in 1960 or the actions of some Democratic lawmakers following the 2004 and 2016 elections were comparable to the Republicans' efforts to submit fake elector slates in 7 states President Joe Biden won in 2020. Burden said, "There's really nothing like the efforts of the fake electors in 2020. That was an orchestrated effort across multiple swing states, including Wisconsin, to present false electors on behalf of a party that had just lost every one of those states." Johnson on Friday maintained there was not a substantial difference between a coordinated multi-state effort to submit fraudulent elector slates and Democratic objections to some states' electoral votes in past elections. My comment was there's all kinds of examples, and Democrats repeatedly have denied the results of elections. I was slightly wrong. The Democrats had repeatedly had alternate slates of electors when I was really, in my mind, on a gotcha question, thinking about and talking about how many Democrats have denied elections. Yes, Ron Johnson. He was apparently slightly wrong.
Dominic, on Friday, a CBS 58 reporter asked Johnson if, knowing what he knows now, whether he would have still connected Trupus with his staff. Again, a little bit earlier here, records show Johnson connected Trump attorney Jim Trupus to the center's chief of staff, Sean Riley. Riley then told Penn staffer he needed to hand something to the vice president, and it was an alternative slate of electors for Michigan and Wisconsin. The Penn staffer said he would not accept that. But here is how Johnson responded just Friday, Dom. I didn't connect Jim. Jim Trupus called me up, asked if I could help deliver something to the vice president. That's all I knew. I had no idea.
I got no idea. Hey, Crudy, hey, man, help me out. I got this box that fell off the truck. It's a little heavy for me to carry. When I help me out, you know what I mean? Don't worry about it.
My chief of staff spent an hour contacting people, found out the vice president wasn't accepting anything, and we never delivered them. So my involvement took a few seconds. That's it. My chief of staff, he didn't know what we were being asked to deliver. Now, the January 6th records indicated Riley did indeed know what he had been asked to get.
Oh,
Pence.
Come on, Rojo. I mean, this is on Friday. You're telling me your chief of staff didn't know, but we know from the records that he did? Oh, man, I was just slightly wrong. Are you slightly wrong about that part, too? Or are you lying?
Dom.
Mike.
More Devil's Advocates phone lines open. You could join us. This might be a really good show. Or maybe we're just tricking you. 844-96-PARTY.
I'm Alan Robinson, co-founder of Herbal Aspect. Cannabis is my business, my vocation, and my passion. Schedule an in-person or virtual cannabis consultation with me. A $50 value at no cost, just for Devil Radio listeners. Receive personalized advice, benefit from my undivided attention, and I'll guide you through helping you make an informed choice among Herbal Aspect's extensive selection. And get 10% off your first purchase when you use the code DevilRadio at herbalaspect.com.
Looking for a new pair of glasses? Ula Eyewear has been connecting people with fun, uniquely U frames for close to 25 years. Ula is one of the only local independent and family-owned eyewear stores offering glasses, readers, sunglasses for all ages and price points. And get up to $100 off during Ula's annual Donate and Save event. Donate a gently loved pair of glasses or a bag of non-perishable food items through December 31st and save. Ula Eyewear in the Hilldale Shopping.
So what? So let's dance.
60% of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We do appreciate it. You can always join us on the lines, have a little fun, talk some politics. 844-967-2789.
Rodney promised me we're all going to get laid down.
That's what he said. I remember.
If I don't, I'm going to feel like I was tricked.
You were tricked. You were slightly wrong. I was tricked. I mean, there's so many excuses.
Now, Andrew Hitt's out there on the self-serving truth tour, right?
Who's
Now
Andrew Hitt, Crudy?
Andrew Hitt is the former Republican Party chairman of the great state of Wisconsin, which doesn't in and of itself imply any sort of brain power, at least not as far as I'm concerned. But
What?
he is a lawyer, kind of a big shot, Michael Best and Friedrich, right? He's like their
Michael
state
Best strategies,
political-
man. Doesn't he do like the political stuff?
Yes, he's like the big shot in their whole political division. And here's what I would say. I'm not a lawyer,
No, but you play one on the radio.
but I've heard of Google.
Yeah.
And if I was asked to, let's say, go out and claim that I was a elector when I knew, in fact, I was not an elector, and, I had some qualms, but I didn't ask for any sort of specific sort of contingency language saying that I would only be counted if there was some legal contingency where we would be needed, but otherwise, please do not consider us.
Oh, like some of the other states who Biden won that were toss-up states that filed these same exact things. They actually altered this very similar kind of boilerplate legal language. They altered it just a bit to give themselves a little more cover, a little protection from some liability, for example.
Plausible deniability. But I'm not so clear here. When the lawyer's lawyer, the head of the political division down at Michael Best Strategies, when he claims he was tricked on
Right.
by the likes of Rudy Giuliani,
Yeah, kind of makes you wonder, right?
it does make me wonder. So we've got some sound. This is going to take a bit. Please indulge us. You're going to want to hear this. The I got tricked defense, the self-serving truth tour. And just for the record, we have invited Andrew Hitt, attorney at law currently, and former Republican Party chairman. of the
Yes,
great
thank
state of
you. Yeah,
Wisconsin.
Nate, thank you for that. We were not able to get him this week. Nate, you do all the hard work around here. What did Andrew Hitt or his people say back to you?
So Andrew Hitt, it was him directly. It wasn't his people. He said, "Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate the opportunity." He then said that he was contacted by a national outlet and committed to an interview with them, and said that he would not be talking with anyone until after that airs. However, he says, "I would be interested in coming on once after that interview."
After the Newsmax, with the
So
Eric
for more
Bolling
information, more information. We couldn't get him, but it was great. He was on this weekend on Upfront with Matt Smith, and I think I got to tell you, I thought Matt Smith did a pretty good job with Andrew Hitt. But I mean, come on, guys, really? I got
he's
tricked.
no Goucher.
Oh, I miss Goucher.
I
But
think
Matt did a
Wisconsin
fine
misses
job. Let's
Goucher.
hear some of the sound again. And this is on WISN.com. Former GOP chairman, fake electors, said electors were tricked here in Wisconsin by the Trump campaign. They were tricked, I tell ya. We have the sound. Let's just get to it. Nate, thank you for cutting it up. Again, this was from the interview on Upfront with Matt Smith. You'll hear some of these quotes have the journalist Matt Smith on them, but it's all about context and giving it to you folks so we can have a talk about it. Man, this is the first time I know of, right, that this has been addressed by Hitt himself. So let's get to it. If you would please, Nate, cut number one.
Are you under investigation by the state?
No, I don't believe I am. And, really, we've seen time and time again with this, when we have an opportunity to talk to people and tell them what we knew, what we, more importantly, didn't know, show them our text messages, our emails, it becomes very clear. We were tricked. We weren't made aware of any ulterior motive or scheme. And we wouldn't have gone along with it had we been told about it.
In the past, have you talked with any state Department of Justice investigators?
I have not talked to the state, no.
Well, I can't speak to what Josh Call and the DOJ are doing here in the state of Wisconsin, Tom. But to take this, we was duped. I was tricked, I tell you. You're supposed to be a smart guy. You're supposed to be a lawyer's lawyer. And if that's your legal defense, I certainly understand. But I would let's just say, have a hard time wanting to hire you to represent me in the future if this is your depth of legal knowledge.
Well, and not just legal knowledge,
and
but
common sense.
and political knowledge, right? This is about politics. This is a campaign. Rudy Giuliani was part. Well, this is a Trump campaign, right? This is a campaign thing.
Andrew, it would have been worth a Google.
I mean, come on. So you were tricked. That's what we're to believe. That's what you say. But let's get into that, because I'm curious about the interactions with these electors, Hitt specifically, and the Trump campaign. And furthermore, when he talks about, we love to get the opportunity to talk about it, and when people see what happened, and when we present our text messages, was that under subpoena? Was that under oath? What was all the information given? I'm saying? So I don't know what the context of, because I haven't seen his text messages. So perhaps he's talking about the J6 committee. I don't know what he's referencing there, but I really wonder when he says, this information that's been shared that you're telling us about now, is that to the extent of the information, Andrew? I'm curious, because you've been tricked before. We got lots of Hitt. Let's get to it. Joe Biden won in 2020? Really? You're saying that now? Cut to.
I'm curious, from your perspective, what did you admit in this settlement?
Settlement negotiations went very well. The things we agreed to, we just viewed as true. Joe Biden won this election. It's pretty clear now that we didn't know that there was this ulterior motive, this different plan. And it's clear now, too, that, those documents were used on January 6th to at the very least, help create the chaos of that day.
You didn't know? I mean, okay. So this was an easy settlement, because we're saying things we already agreed on. Well, if you agreed on that Biden won the election, then why would you agree to be a fraudulent elector then? Doesn't it seem on its face to be contradictory?
Well, with 2020 hindsight, he sees that Biden won now, Dom.
Yeah. We got time for at least one more in this segment. What did you think you were doing? Again, Matt Smith at Upfront with Andrew Hitt. Cut 3.
Looking back at it now, what do you believe you were walking in that room to do that day?
I think what we believe and what we thought we were doing was clearly just to be a contingency plan. Now we know that other people had other ideas of what they were going to do with our documents. And that's clear from the January 6th investigation. It's clear from the indictment.
But you could have clarified that on December 14th, 2020, when you were in the Wisconsin state capitol with armed guards in a clandestine location. You could have clarified that. Even the cheese bro was there, man. That's the other part. We'll get to that.
Oh, there's so many questions.
Cheese bro walks into the room, starts videotaping the fake elector scheme, this criminal conspiracy they've been tricked into doing. They were told it was an orgy, apparently. Everybody's going to get laid.
Hey, we're going to do it.
And we're supposed to understand the naivete of the Andrew Hitt, this poor lawyer. How would he know anything about the rules of law
and campaigns?
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Republican lawmakers want some state agencies to lay off workers. A recent audit finds many state workers are working 3 or 4 days a week at home and maybe only 1 or 2 days in the office. Many agencies and state workers say remote work makes them more efficient. If that's the case, Senator Eric Wimberger says the state can afford to trim some jobs and shut down some little-used offices. The chances of a white Christmas are looking slim to none. In fact, much of Wisconsin can expect milder than normal weather for at least the rest of December, thanks to the strongest El Nino weather system in 70 years. The National Weather Service says the rest of this winter could be warmer and drier than usual, too. Past El Ninos made for brown Christmases in 2015, 1997, and 1982. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMTX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. A city committee is set to vote on a final master plan for the future of Lake Monona's waterfront this evening. The designs were created by a Denver-based design firm alongside ample public input throughout the entire year. The plans contain an overpass near Olin Park, a new amphitheater, and a potential waterfront plaza. The Lake Monona Waterfront Committee will meet at 6 tonight. If approved, the project will take several years to come to fruition. The University of Wisconsin in Madison held their winter commencement ceremony on Saturday. This year, nearly 2,000 students received their degrees. Former Badger and NBA star Michael Finley delivered this year's commencement speech at the Kohl Center. UW Chancellor Jennifer Mnuchin also spoke at the ceremony, highlighting the many different backgrounds and ideas that emerge from the Universities of Wisconsin's flagship campus. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Wuggehout, WMDX News.
You know Ignite Glass and Gifts 3 locations in Madison, but you can also shop IgniteGlassandGifts.com. You'll find grinders, lighters, collectibles, hand-blown glass water pipes, artistically designed jewelry, and plenty of other items delivered straight to your door or to family and friends. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Plus IgniteGlassandGifts.com.
The Packers lose to the Buccaneers. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Another frustrating day for the Packers, losing 34-20 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Packers quarterback Jordan Love.
We've had highs and we've had lows, so it's just finding a way to win these games. That's what it comes down to. Got 3 games left, so, just got to get back to the win column.
NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Rockets 128-119 at Fiserv Forum, and another franchise record for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Most career rebounds, surpassing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Does Giannis see a day his records will be broken?
Obviously, there's going to be another player that's going to come along in a couple of years that's going to break all of the records the same way that I don't think anybody assumed that the kid from Greece that was drafted supposed to play in the G League, be in a position to break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar record. I don't think anybody thought about that. Hopefully, if I'm not busy with kids and I'm not in the island and enjoying my life, I'm going to be here and celebrating him and applauding.
With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot with a look at your weather ahead. We'll be under partly sunny skies today, mixed in with some scattered flurries. This is from lake effect snow as winds are gusting out of the north up to 35 miles per hour. This, of course, is going to make our highs in the upper 20s feel more like the teens all day long. Stay warm. Currently, we're at 22 degrees.
Darcy Haber, I hear you have solar panels on your office building. Since when are real estate brokers so concerned about the environment?
Drew, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yeah, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike, and if I have an appointment across town, I use my solar panels to charge my plug-in.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Check them out at Solidarity Realty.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Monday edition. I was tricked. I was so duped. I had no idea. As an attorney at law and the head of the Republican Party of the state of Wisconsin.
Former head.
Former head. But at the time, he was the head. And the fact that they had armed guards and this clandestine meeting. And I believe in prior testimony, I swear it was the J6 testimony. I'd hate to be, even slightly wrong about this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure Andrew Hitt said, well, what did Hitch? I'll just look
it's a bad idea. It's going to fail miserably. Something along those lines.
Well, the fact that the clandestine, the lack of any sort of out clause, the plausible deniability. Now, if I'm a lawyer, man, I've been asked to sign a couple of partnership paper. I'm not signing that. Oh, what do you mean? Well, I'm not signing it. You know,
Right.
I object.
Right. Here's a part, this piece, like strike that, strike throughs. There's a lot of marking up on these contracts sometimes.
But there was no plausible deniability. And the part that I can't 100% verify in my, twisted little memory, Dom, is whether or not Hitt did say in specific videotaped testimony, which I think he did, that, he sure did wish there had been some sort of out clause, some contingency language in the false elector statement, but there wasn't. And the galling part, as far as I'm concerned, as I watch and listen to this, Dom, he knows he's off scot-free at this point.
Well, I'm not clear. I mean, why do the tour now? Why do the tour right now? If you think he's got nothing to worry about, why is it now he's out here now? You know what I'm saying? What think about what's been going on. They settled the civil suit.
Come on, man, he's still a lawyer. You think if he didn't think he was out of the woods by now, he would be out doing a tour? If you don't think Rojo thought effectively there'd be no harm done by the delivery of the false electors, being the conduit, having his chief of staff reach out to Pence's people.
I prefer Bagman number 2.
Well, that's the way I would look at it too, Dom. But if Rojo felt like he had some culpability, I mean, he's already talked to a good criminal effing defense attorney.
Yeah, who did he engage? Who's his attorney, Curdy? Do you remember?
Well, for a recount effort in the state of Wisconsin, of course, it's Jim Trupus, who turns up everywhere like a bad penny dude. But in this case, there was no real out clause. And I only think Andrew Hitt's out here in the, self-serving truth tour going on the Sunday morning shows is because he thinks he's out of the woods. He doesn't think there is any prosecution coming from Josh Call in the Wisconsin Department of Justice. And he's been apparently responsive because, Jack Smith's got bigger fish to fry than Andrew Hitt. That's sort of a state and local sort of a charge, if you know what I'm saying, Dom. Like they've done in Michigan, in Nevada, in Georgia. But not so much here. I think these guys are feeling pretty confident at this late hour.
Again, getting back to some of the sound. Thank you, Nate. Matt Smith, the journalist at UPFRONT.
Matt did do a good job. He's in good shape, but doing a fine job.
Some people want you in jail, Andrew Hitt. Cut number 4, please.
There's critics of yours who want you in jail.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Lock him up.
That's never something you want to hear as a person, right? But if you look at what our text messages say, what our emails say, what conversations we were having that we never thought would see the light of day, it becomes very clear. And everybody who's looked at it has come to the same conclusion.
Yes, you should be behind bars. That's the conclusion I arrive at. Didn't know we were going to be discovered. Didn't know these texts were ever going to see the light of day. It was a conspiracy. That's what it was, Dom.
Let's keep going on the sound.
Lock him up. Lock him up.
Why would you have armed guards? Andrew Hitt, cut number 5.
Why was that needed? A secret meeting place and armed security?
So the secret meeting place was the Republican Party of Wisconsin. So not so secret. So, I'm sure that got some interest on a podcast, but it doesn't really match the reality. We had asked everybody to come to the Republican Party of Wisconsin. We'd meet there, and then during the winter, uphill with snow on the ground, we took a number of different vehicles to get us up there, walked in, signed our documents and walked out. We were very concerned about security. At that time, I was getting phone calls, emails, messages. At that time, I was getting a phone call to my office every day demanding to know where my location was. It did not feel like a safe time.
That was Trump.
We didn't want to disturb anything. We didn't want to disturb the Democrat electors. We just wanted to go in and do our contingency plan, and that's it.
There was no contingency language. There was no contingency plan. This was the plan.
It was
That's
a
my
multi-state
assertion.
conspiratorial plan. The language and the documents from all these different states were almost identical, as if they were provided by some attorneys, perhaps from the Trump campaign. Let's keep going. Cut number 6. We needed to do it in case Trump won, but Trump didn't win because you said you knew what you. Let's just strike this one. We played a cut earlier, and they settled the civil case. And they said, oh, it's really easy because most of the stuff we already agreed with. Joe Biden won. That's what he said. That's why they settled. It was easy. They knew Joe Biden won. Well, let's hear cut 6.
There's a lot of pressure. There was a lot of fear. And remember, our lawyer is saying, if we don't do this, Andrew, if you don't have the electors meet and Trump wins, it will be you who caused him to lose Wisconsin completely. You will be responsible for him forfeiting Wisconsin. Think about the pressure and the amount of repercussions that would have arose had we done that.
But you said you knew Biden won. So you fall to political pressure? What pressure? What pressure do you speak, sir? Political pressure? Is that really pressure? Because now you're being pushed to try to overturn the election because of the pressure? Because the attorney said, well, if you don't do this and Trump wins, it was already settled, man. Wisconsin Supreme Court settled it that day before you met. Again, contradiction. I don't think he's out of the woods yet. Let's hear some more. Wasn't all the secrecy a red flag? Well, Matt Smith, that's a great question. Cut number 7, please.
In hindsight, sure, it feels like a red flag now. At the time, it just felt more of what they were up to.
What?
More of kind of the ridiculousness that was going on, where they would go on TV and make these allegations that clearly weren't true.
You mean like at the Four Seasons landscaping? And like when Donald Trump came out and said, I won, and Rudy came out and said it was rigged, and then it was Sidney Powell. But most of that, Dom, had happened, right away. The night of, before Foxy News had, let's say, called Arizona for Joe Biden. Then it got a little hairy from there on.
It was the secrecy was just more of the same. Right now, you're gonna combine that with what we know about everything else at the time. Let's keep going. What were you thinking that day? Andrew Hitt, one of the fraudulent electors on the upfront. Cut number 8, please.
What were you thinking as you walked into the Capitol that day?
I'd like to get in, get this done, and get out as soon as we possibly can.
I always feel that way when I'm crying.
No, I mean, if we had told in the Supreme Court brief, the Trump campaign said, we've asked the Wisconsin electors to meet and to send their paperwork to Washington. That went to the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Obviously, the Department of Justice saw it. It's important to know nobody raised a red flag. Our lawyers didn't. WAC knew we were going to meet. The Department of Justice knew we were going to meet. Presumably, the governor knew we were going to meet. Nobody reached out and said, I don't think you should do this. Nobody was waiting for us at the Capitol saying, no, you're not allowed to come in and do this. Nothing. We had no red flags that what we were about to do, that anybody would think it was improper.
I could have surmised that going and signing off on a fraudulent document was not the right conduct, Dom. I would have advised that. I'm not a attorney at law like the speaker, Andrew Hitt is.
Right. You're not charged of Michael Best strategies, right? Where you presumably advise lots of well-to-do people who pay you lots of money, right? I mean, presumably you have knowledge and awareness and wisdom of the time to read the room, know the circumstances, understand history, electoral politics, fraud. But no, you're going to meet in secret off campus at the GOP, and then you're gonna get up there in separate vehicles under armed guard to walk into a locked Capitol, because Crudy, we were there that week. It was locked. We got in trouble for that. It was a locked Capitol to get let in, to get down to a room where you could do this as quickly as possible.
Dom, you've done some criming in your life. When you're in the act of criming,
you want to get it done quickly.
You want to get in,
yes,
and get out.
Yes.
Nobody wants to hang out and chew the fat with a drug dealer, do they?
And here's how you know this is some more BS. Nobody said a thing. Okay. Until people said a thing. Because I remember when all this was coming down and the news network was saying, "Hey, here's a paperwork from Georgia, here's a paperwork from Wisconsin, here's a paperwork from Minnesota. I'm sorry, from Nevada, and Arizona." It was all very similar, right? Wow, that seems like they're all working off the same blueprint. It's the same boilerplate. Yes, automatically things started like happening. Wow, that seems strange. And from that time until then to today or till Sunday when he was on that show, what did Andrew Hitt to correct the record? To say something was wrong? To it? What? After a civil case? That's when he decided to do it? Well, you knew all these things were false. Everything that was being said, and we knew it was false. And the secrecy was just the way they were doing things. It was really weird, and it was just a contingency plan. And no one thought we were doing a bad thing. But she never corrected the record. You never came out and said, "This is wrong. We apologize. We withdraw the documents," until you got a civil case against you. And now who knows what Josh Call and the Wisconsin DOJ is doing. But now you're out trying to set the record straight. Where were you for the last couple of years, man? Also, Crudy,
probably laying low under the advice of a good
effing
criminal defense attorney.
Lots more Andrew Hitt. Let's get this one in before the break. Why was Cheese Bro in the room with you, yo? Cut number 9.
Yes, that's correct. I had to actually ask one of the RPW staffers who he was. I didn't know who he was. I hadn't talked to him, and they told me, "Well, that's Ken Chesbrough." And okay. Mark had told me, as I said in my testimony, that Chesbrough had invited himself, and what are we going to do about it? Our conclusion was, well, I'm not sure there's anything we can do about it.
So I from now on invite myself to all clandestine GOP fraudulent meetings, and I'm going to record it. And there's not going to be anything you can do about it. Really, dude? Nothing you can do about it. People are singing in the Capitol. They're throwing them out left or right under Scott Walker. There's nothing you can do about it.
Wasn't the aforementioned, and I prefer the common vernacular, Cheese Bro, wasn't Cheese Bro the author of the false documents in some way, shape, or form?
Why, yes.
He's the one that proposed to the president by his own testimony in Michigan, which we played you some of the sound of just before the weekend. He actually proposed this and said, well, January 6th is the real date. And until the Congress has certified the vote, why, game on. And Jim Trupus, according to Cheesebro, said, not in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a moot issue. We've moved on from Wisconsin. And Cheesebro said, yeah, but there's so many other states to contest. We can still backdoor the coup. So the fact that he was in the room and nobody knew who
he couldn't do anything
Cheese
about
Bro
it.
character
Who's that
was.
guy?
Well, did he bring beer? Did he bring a casserole? Did he bring the arm? Where were the armed security guards when Cheese Bro came in the room? Because if you got 4 armed guards and you let a rando in just to videotape what's going on.
Right, dude, come on.
So something doesn't
No.
pass the casserole smell test, if you know what I'm saying.
Not at all. Not even close. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. We got more of this. Try to wrap it up on the next segment and your calls, 844-967-2789.
Partner now with the greatest radio show ever and start getting return on your investment immediately. The Devil's Advocates are a small business just like you, and like you, we can't afford advertising that offers no return. The Devil's Advocates listeners support our sponsors and the mission. Tell you when your messages are working and put cash in your register. So invest your ad dollars to reach our raving Madison and Dane County fans, or affordably reach the whole state, Chicago, Minneapolis, and our nationwide stream audience today. The Devil's Advocates can be the voice of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at DARNWI.com. That's Crute at DarnWI.com.
Some intimate parts need the gentle, easy trim of a Gillette trimmer, and some need the closeness and comfort of a Gillette Intimate razor, while others need a Gillette anti-chafe stick. Gillette Intimate, the best a man can get, down there. Buy now.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. We'll get to you callers at 844-967-2789. Got a few more cuts from former Wisconsin GOP chair Andrew Hitt, fresh off of a civil settlement, admitting that Joe Biden won the election and wondering, and people are wondering, and he was interviewed on Upfront with Matt Smith. What's going on? This is all bogus, but you go, Crudy.
Well, just a few of the texters. I call BS. That's all caps. So I know the texters seriously. Here's one. Secret. What planning was going on in secret? Well, the best kind of planning's always done in secret, Dom. And another good question from the text line. So when the burglar breaks into his house and no one's there to say no, it's okay, right? Right? 844-967-2789. I'm sorry. I know this is important stuff. And actually, some of the better part of the interview is still to come.
Right.
I told you, might be a good show. You never can tell.
You got to stick around till the end to fully, make an informed judgment. Once again, Andrew Hitt on the Upfront with Matt Smith. Some people think what you're saying is bogus. I mean, it's like they're talking to me. Cut number 10, please.
I think there's some people who struggle with that you absolutely had no idea of this larger planning underway as chairman of the state Republican Party in one of the most critical states in the country.
Yeah. So, compare
nothing.
us to, let's say, Nevada, who just charged their electors. They were on the phone with Donald Trump. They were talking to him. They were talking to Rudy Giuliani. I never talked to Trump, never talked to Giuliani, never talked to Eastman, never talked to any of these guys.
How about cheese, bro?
How about Troopus?
You know what I mean?
I mean, come on, you're just picking out different characters from the
and look
the
at
usual suspects.
Look at that state. Look at those states where they got charged. We didn't talk to the okay. So you didn't talk to Al Capone, but you talked to the lower capos. That's totally different. Totally different. Again, who's Cheese Bro? I mean, what is this guy? Untouchable? You got armed security guards and you got some rando you don't know about in your meeting, and you're just like, guess there's nothing we can do. Yeah, that's bogus. We don't believe you. So I am, in this case, some people. I'm one of those. Let's blast some more out. Would you do it again? Cut 11.
Would you do it again?
Would I do what again?
The meeting.
Criming.
It's such a hard question to answer. If I knew what I know now, no, absolutely not.
Well, it didn't seem like it was
Poor
very hard.
old grandpa.
That's a hard question, but I mean, if I knew, of course. What? You didn't know, but you told me you knew that Biden won. You told me they knew that Trump's campaign and those people were being weird and all this, abnormal stuff going on with these, secret meetings and whatnot, and you didn't know this random in the room. What would you say you do around here, Andrew Hitt? Would you do it again? Will you testify against Trump? Cut number 12, please.
Look, I was scheduled to testify in the Georgia case. I was notified of that. I haven't been notified from federal investigators, but I will, consistent with my approach throughout all of this, I'm going to cooperate. I'm going to tell the truth of what happened and explain the context of what happened here in Wisconsin.
I would like to point out in the civil forfeiture case, State of Wisconsin versus Devil's Advocates co-host Dom and Crute, Andrew Hitt was not willing to publicly testify to his actions. In fact, we tried to subpoena all the false Trump electors because we got sent tickets for entering a locked building. No armed guards or anything, Dom. Showed up with a little devil tree and we get tickets. Yet somehow Andrew Hitt and like 9 of his buddies in Cheese Bro, so at least 10 Z's, they don't get tickets, and they got 4 armed guards, presuming they're not false electors also, Dom. Well, we're up to 15. That's a hell of a quorum they got in the room. You haven't given public testimony, or you would have honored the request made by our fine counsel, Jeff Scott Olson.
That's true. Will you testify against Donald Trump? Andrew Hitt, let's play cut 12.
It shouldn't be optional.
I believe, didn't we just play that one?
What did he say?
I believe we just did that one. We can play it again.
Let's hear it. I forgot.
Look, I was scheduled to testify in the.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. Did Trump try to overturn the election? Cut 13.
You know, what happened on January 6th was unacceptable. I don't personally know what he knew in the alternate elector scheme.
Do you think his campaign or people around him attempted to overturn the results?
Yes. I mean, I do. You know, it's pretty clear that what they did, or what they were at least attempting to do on January 6th, was to play a part in overturning the election.
Were you not a vessel of that coup?
He certainly, but he
I
didn't
know you're trying to.
Oh, no. It was
I got tricked, Jerry. I thought it was a write-off.
Wow. Okay. Are you still a Republican? Former Wisconsin GOP chair Andrew Hitt. Cut 14.
Are you still a Republican?
I am.
Is there a scenario where you will vote for Trump in 2024?
There is not. I will not vote for him.
Under no circumstance?
Under no circumstance.
Would you vote for a Democrat?
I would not.
So I've changed, but not really at my character, not at my core. I am still with the malfeasant Republican Party.
And finally, from Mr. Matt Smith on the up front. Well done, sir. Here is the last question. If Trump's a nominee, will he be at the convention in the MKE? Cut 15, please.
If Trump is the nominee, will you attend?
I will not.
You will not attend. Why?
You know, I don't agree. I've already said I'm not supporting him. I support Republicans. I'll be there for Republicans. I worked as a volunteer position, you know, very hard on behalf of the president. What happened to us, what happened to the electors is outrageous, unfair, and I don't want to be any part of it ever again.
Well, maybe you should sue him then. You know, I mean, really, you're this big victim. You're going to be there for the Republicans, but you're not going to be there at the convention. I don't know, man. Seems like a lot of contradiction to me. So we did invite Mr. Hitt, and we'll see if we can get him on, and we'll ask the questions in the way we do it. But I thought, again, Matt Smith at Upfront, well done.
Here are a few of the thoughts on the text line, Dom. Cam from Nina. I'm not sure about the rest of the interview, but F this guy. He hasn't even apologized. He only cares about his own skin. Another texter from the 920 says, this guy sounds exactly like Butthead when he talks. You know what it sounds like, Dom. And then one from the WAUK. I've got to screen this one slightly. Wow, not a good liar. He's totally full of guano. Nasty woman from Heartland. Or Devils, come back.
4 until 6.
I like your stories and your reporting. Great show.
Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us. Mad Radio 92.7 programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Solidarity Realty, there is an alternative. Our pets are like family to us. That's why Dr. Mike Cohn and his trusty assistant Daisy the dog of Veterinary Clinic are here with over 42 years of experience. Ensure your pet's health with proper rabies vaccinations, reliable heartworm protection, and proper yearly checkups. Call 608-255-1239. That's 608-255-1239. Veterinary Clinic and Medicine. Open from 7:30 to 2 Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 on Saturdays. For a lifetime of wagging tails and joyful meows, visit Veterinary Clinic in Madison. You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Daria Aldinger. A federal appeals court in Georgia has rejected an appeal by former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to move his election interference case to federal court. The higher court ruled that the events that Meadows is accused of were not part of his official duties, as he claimed.
Pope Francis says Roman Catholic clergy can bless same-sex couples. This man was outside New York St. Patrick's Cathedral.
That's between them and God, and whatever you do is between you and God. So that's the way I look at it.
The rules stop short of allowing same-sex marriages. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced a multinational naval task force to deal with Houthi attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Senate Republicans and Democrats say they're making slow progress on a supplemental funding bill for Israel and Ukraine, but they aren't likely to reach an agreement on one by the end of the year. This is ABC News.
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. We're hearing from the first fake elector about efforts to declare Donald Trump the winner of Wisconsin's presidential votes 3 years ago. Andrew Hitt says the Trump campaign told him the documents they were signing were a backup in case the former president won a legal challenge.
So we viewed what we were doing as simply a contingency plan. The documents we signed would have no meaning unless a court gave them meaning.
Hitt tells WISN TV's Upfront he's cooperating with a federal investigation. COVID-19 cases are trending up in Wisconsin. More than 400 people were in the hospital at last word, and 46 of them were in the ICU. State health officials say only 12% of eligible adults in Wisconsin have had the latest COVID vaccine. RSV and flu cases are up too. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. The University of Wisconsin in Madison is launching a new program to cover attendance and tuition costs for some Indigenous students. The Wisconsin Tribal Education Promise Program will cover the full cost of tuition for undergraduate students from 11 federally recognized American Indian tribes. The goal is to make the university more accessible to Native students. The program is available to any current or future Indigenous students starting in the fall of next year. Union workers at True Stage Insurance Company, formerly known as CUNA Mutual Group, have ratified a new contract with the company. The workers have been working without a contract for almost 2 years. The workers in May staged one of the largest local strikes in years. The new contract runs through 2028 and retroactively raises pay by over 15% and increases wages by over 13% over the next 4 years. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggehout, WMDX News.
I'm John. I'm Gordy. Join us for the John and Gordy Show, 6 to 8 a.m. weekdays.
Right here on WMDX Bad Radio in Madison.
Your family won't want to miss the shindig, hullabaloo, and politics.
John and Gordy Show, weekday morning, 6 to 8 a.m. right here.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store, then listen live or whenever you want from anywhere for free.
The Packers lose to the Buccaneers. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. It was a back-and-forth battle of the bays before the Buccaneers took over in the second quarter and never looked back. The final 34-20 in favor of Tampa. Buccaneers receiver Chris Godwin over 150 yards on 10 catches. Quarterback Baker Mayfield.
Guy's just so consistent, man. Can't say enough about him. A true stud, true professional.
Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles.
You know, we're playing good December football right now. We won 3. We got 3 more to go, and we can't rest. We can't stop. We got to keep working.
The Packers tied the game 10-10 in the first quarter, then just couldn't seem to make the adjustments. Matt LaFleur.
Give Tampa a ton of credit. They came in, they whooped us in every phase, out-coached us, outplayed us. We got to play better. We got to coach better.
At 6-8, how will this young team respond? Jordan Love.
That's what we've been doing the whole season is, you know, how do we respond? How do we bounce back? Find ways to get better, focus on that, and make sure we go get a win.
That's Packers quarterback Jordan Love. With sports from Lambeau Field, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Tonight, a mostly clear sky, a low in the upper teens. And for tomorrow, a mostly sunny day, highs to the mid-30s with less wind. Sunshine and near 40 degrees Wednesday. A mostly cloudy day for Thursday, slight rain chance late, highs in the low 40s. Currently 21 degrees.
Tons of glass artists share the same passion for eye-catching art as Ignite Glass and Gifts, so we're showcasing their work alongside our talented local artists and our in-house Ignite artists. The latest techniques, the hottest colors, and mind-blowing designs are here for you to enjoy. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts. Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Plus, IgniteGlassandGifts.com. Do your eyes a favor and see this stuff.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app. Broadcasting from the city where the official bird is the... Warning, you're about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a Monday happy hour. Can we acknowledge that the legal defenses, or at least the self-serving truth tour of Andrew Hitt, left more questions than answers?
Former Wisconsin GOP chair, false elector, and recent settlee of a civil case. Yes, I have many questions for Mr. Hitt. Also, at Michael Best Strategies, a smart attorney guy, should be, apparently got tricked. Was tricked, Jerry, by the Trump campaign. Thank you once again, Nate, for cutting up the sound over from Upfront. Matt Smith interviewing Andrew Hitt over the weekend.
Now, Dom, usually I take the bull by the horns, but I know you were offended by something Trump said over the weekend. What was it? What was it? What?
I don't know which one. I mean, the immigrants poisoning the blood thing. That's a consistent theme with Trump. Yeah, I got a problem with that. You know, aside from the fact that he's got a couple of kids from immigrant wives, you know, I mean, what, dude? So, but yeah, what? It's very, the comparisons continue to I hate to bring it up, man, but these authoritarian types, the Nazi types, right? When you talk about your political opponents being vermin, we talk about, you know, the immigrants poisoning the blood of your people kind of stuff. A lot aside from the massive hypocrisy and all that, and then what? Praising Viktor Orban, praising Kim Jong-un, praising Putin. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this guy is leading any Republicans, man. What happened? Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. They're like, Mr. Putin, build that wall. You know, it's not even what it once used to be, and that was pretty rough back then. It's over the top, and he continues as the pressure mounts, as the time goes by, as the clock continues to tick, so goes the days of our lives, and Trump is getting nuttier and nuttier and more vitriolic in his language.
Okay, if we must, afternoon coverage from thehill.com, Trump draws Nazi comparisons in Biden counterattack with immigration rhetoric. Brett Samuels over at thehill.com. Former President Trump is escalating his rhetoric. Escalating, Dom. That escalated quickly. Escalating his rhetoric around immigration with less than a month to go before the Iowa caucuses. Even as Biden's campaign counterattacks by arguing he's parroting Nazis. Trump, in separate events over the weekend, claimed migrants were poisoning the blood of our country and posed an increased terrorism risk, and he equated the influx of migrants at the southern border to an invasion. The poisoning the blood remark is not the first time Trump has used that line, which the Anti-Defamation League and others have said echoes the rhetoric of Adolf Hitler, who wrote in Mein Kampf that the German blood was being poisoned by Jews. Now, Biden campaign spokesperson Amar Moussay said that Trump had parroted Adolf Hitler at Saturday's rally. Trump is not shying away from his plan to lock up millions of people in detention camps and continues to lie about that time when Joe Biden obliterated him by over 7 million votes 3 years ago. Ooh, that one's got a sting. Scoreboard. Look at the scoreboard. Of course, they don't look at the scoreboard, Dom. Sort of a Patrick Mahomes, the ref robbed me sort of a thing they do. One more, Dom. White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates also criticized Trump in a separate statement, echoing the grotesque rhetoric of fascists and violent white supremacists and threatening to oppress those who disagree with the government are dangerous attacks on the dignity and right of all Americans, on our democracy, and on public safety. And Don Biden officials previously compared Trump's rhetoric to World War II era dictators when the former president described his political opponents as vermin who posed a threat to the country from within. Well, he's been saying that about the media for a long time, fella.
844-967-2789. Go ahead.
For some reason, you take offense to this.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit more from the Hill. Let's get this out there. Then we'll get to your calls. We promise. The comments echoed past remarks by Trump, who has routinely deployed anti-immigrant rhetoric and sought to crack down on a number of migrants entering the country while he was president. Trump on Saturday held a rally in New Hampshire at which he claimed immigrants were pouring into the United States and poisoning the blood of our country. All over the world, they're coming into our country, from Africa, from Asia, all over the world, Trump said, suggesting it would lead to increases in crime and terrorism. Wasn't there a song? Coming to America. We would maybe play that one. The same night Trump wrote.
I heard that song this weekend.
Did you really?
On the Bug Retro
Neil Diamond.
Radio.
Yeah, man, Neil Diamond. The same night, according to The Hill, Trump wrote in all capital letters on Truth Social, immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. So said it once, said it again, and then followed up with an all caps tweet. There you go. I mean, if you don't get it, I don't know what else to tell you. He's telling you exactly who he is. He's that snake, right? He's the snake that bit you. We've heard that story. So strange. Look it up sometime. Donald Trump.
He tells the story.
Yes,
he reads the poem.
He tells you who he is over and over and over again. So when you wonder, when everything that Trump touches dies, it's because he's a snake and it is poisonous and it dies. And Andrew Hitt, you know that from Wisconsin, and all you electors, anybody that backed him up, anyone that was in his White House and his cabinet, what do they all say about him? What's the response? Once they're out, once they get some backbone, once they're unfettered, they can say what they want. He's a loser. He's an idiot. He's a racist. He's pathological. He's a narcissist, authoritarian. That was Paul Ryan, former Speaker of the House Republican, who merged his agendas with Donald Trump. Come on. You don't got to hear me saying it. Just listen to everybody who's ever known him.
844-967-2789. Jack from Merrimack. Welcome, Jack. What do you got for us?
Hi, Jack.
Yeah, well, first of all, if anybody has the right to say that immigrants poisoned this country, it's the Native Americans.
Right.
Secondly, Trump has already poisoned this country by producing several offspring that are mini Trumpites, as far as I can tell. Finally, Andrew Hitt. Yeah, boy. Oh, yeah, they just told us we're backups in case. Excuse me? Before you signed that document that said, unlawfully said, you were electors for this state, before that happened, something else happened. Our state Supreme Court said Trump lost, so you weren't backup. Now, whatever you were, if you were representing yourself for the state of Wisconsin, that's fraud.
So, Jack,
fraud, you're right.
As you would define it, do you think Andrew Hitt knew he was acting in a criminal fashion without contingency language in the document he signed? Or is he just really dumb as a lawyer? Which do you think it is? Because one or the other must be true here. Either he knew he was a criminal or he's a god-awful lawyer who would take the advice of, what, Rudy Giuliani? Which is it?
Well, yeah, I was married to a lawyer for a while, and she was pretty smart. I suspect you can't be that stupid and get through law school. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think he acted knowing full well what he was doing. That's just my personal opinion for what it's worth.
Well, the answers, Jack, really appreciate you listening to us, but the answers he gives, I find them less than fulfilling.
Well, would you rather
it's
be
like eating dinner and being hungry again an hour later. It's just,
but if it's
like
opposite,
Chinese food.
would you rather be known as perhaps a little foolhardy, perhaps a little naive, maybe a little ignorant about some things, or would you rather be known as being a corrupt attorney who knowingly engaged in a multi-state national conspiracy in an attempt to overthrow the greatest democracy this world has ever known? I think I'd take the ignorant stance as well if I were him.
Well, I tell you what, right up until the end, it worked out pretty well for Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn, of course, was Joe McCarthy's attorney, but Roy Cohn was also a mentor to Donald Trump, who then abandoned him because he died of AIDS and he was gay. But Roy Cohn, man, he was sinister. He was a badass. He was as corrupt and as evil as they came. And, you know, if the option was to be as brilliant but evil as Roy Cohn, or be as buffoonish as one must believe that Andrew Hitt is, to believe that he was tricked into signing these documents without any contingency language. I mean, come on, man. That it wasn't like you were clicking through on the warranty on your iPhone, dude. You know what I mean? These were printed documents.
Yeah, whatever.
You got a strange guy. You got 4 armed guards and a strange dude videotaping you've never seen before. You've got reason to be suspicious, and there's no red flags going up.
I mean, in hindsight, you know, I mean, if I
in hindsight, he'd do it again.
What I know now.
Let's make sure we sneak Mark in here. He's been patient. Mark from the SAC, welcome.
Hey, Mark.
What do you got for us?
Yeah, well, not only were they merely wrong, they're really most sincerely wrong. I mean, to borrow that line from the Coroner's Son from The Wizard of Oz, it is just unbelievable that this guy didn't know what was going on with armed, like you said, armed guards, the secrecy. They pre-met at the Republican Party headquarters and marched up to the Capitol.
No, they took separate vehicles.
It was uphill both ways and snowing. Sounded like my dad telling me a story when he was a kid.
To enter a locked building. And I can't tell you who, but one of our lobbyist friends swears to goodness, and I've heard this also in other press accounts, that it was Scott Fitzgerald. It was Fitzgerald's team that got them the clandestine meeting room.
In the Capitol. Now Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, former...
Well, and he, of course, was sworn in on January 5th, and then he went against the vote in Arizona and whatever. Him and Tiffany only didn't go against Wisconsin because no senator would object.
But they
come back. Don't object. More devils.
Add dollars to reach our raving Madison and Dane County fans, or affordably reach the whole state, Chicago, Minneapolis, and our nationwide stream audience today. The Devil's Advocates can be the voice of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at darnwi.com. That's Crute at darnwi.com.
Tune into The Empowered Caregiver with me, Liza Hellenbrand, every Wednesday evening at 7.
On Mad Radio, 92.7 W.
Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can always be a part of this historic show by calling 844-967-2789.
Real quick, want to throw a headline out before we get back to them. 3 in 10 Trump voters want a president willing to break rules and laws. Only 30%, really. I think that's sort of an underestimate. But let me read briefly from the Post.
Which laws are allowed to be broken? I'm curious.
Well, the one against, the peaceful transfer of power, that's just patriotism at its finest. Unless you're a Capitol Police officer and you've been bear sprayed or clubbed. Let me read. It's been evident for a long time that Republicans and supporters of Donald Trump especially take more of a no-holds-barred approach to politics than Democrats do. They're much more likely to say political violence can be justified. For instance, it's also become clear that Trump being convicted of a felony is not a red line for the vast majority of them.
Wow.
Remember I told the story of Scott Fitzgerald, like how many credible allegations of rape must Trump have against him before he's crossed the line with you, now Congressman Fitzgerald. And we never did get to establishing a firm, hard line in the sand. But I read on. Dom, there's a new Foxy News poll this weekend. It phrased the question thusly. You wonder about how many of the Trumpsters might be violent. 3 in 10-ish. Some people say things in the Some people say,
Some people say, right.
Fox News polling question. Some people say things in the U.S. are so far off track that we need a president willing to break some rules and laws to set things right. While others say the president should always follow the rules and laws. Which comes closest to your view? Oh, damn. Do I really want to know the outcomes? Well, voters who supported Trump in 2020 were about twice as likely to endorse the breaking all the rules view as the 2020 Biden backers. All you compliant suckers. The suckers don't break laws.
Suckers and losers.
Well, 65% of Trump backers said a president should always follow the rules and the law. 30% said breaking rules and laws could be justified. This is not speeding to get to grandma's house on time. I don't think that's the rules and the laws they were talking about. A little bit more here. The split among Biden voters, 83-15, against breaking the rules and the laws. If that part's not obvious to you, the listener. And the new poll builds on previous polling showing a greater appetite on the right for disregarding the usual guardrails. Just beat his ass, right? Trump was saying that at the rallies. I'll pay your legal fees.
if you see anybody throw a tomato, just knock the hell out of them, okay? I'll pay your legal fees. Yes, of course. So this is more of the same. I mean, that's all it is.
The new Fox News poll, Tom, broke new ground in adding a significant phrase.
Oh, what is it?
Laws. It's not just breaking the rules. It's breaking the laws.
Breaking the law.
Should the president break the law? Should the president, break the Constitution? And 3 in 10 of their viewers say, hell yeah. Respondents weren't just being asked about violating some longstanding political or governmental norms or testing the bounds of a president's constitutional prerogatives. They were asked whether doing something illegal is theoretically justified. And while nearly 2/3 of the Trump 2020 backers disagreed, 30% is a huge sentiment of America.
Yeah.
America should drop the A there. And unlike the 2016 poll, there doesn't seem to be a substantial divide between Republicans who back Trump in the primaries and other Republicans. The number for Trump 2024 primary backers specifically is 28%. That's lower than the greater Republican field. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's not just the Trumpsters. It's the party at large. Andrew Hitt earlier today in his less than convincing self-serving truth tour on the WISN this weekend, Dom. Well, the Andrew Hitt, he wasn't convincing. And, he's still a Republican. And although he said he wouldn't vote for Trump, he'd vote for anyone else that wanted to have a soft coup.
Hell, as long as he wasn't tricked into joining in. I want to throw this one out there quickly. This is from December 4th of 2022. So just over a year ago, the headline over at the PBS, Trump rebuked for call to terminate Constitution over 2020 election results. He made the claim over the weekend back then, a year ago, on his Truthy Social, quote, a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders, quote unquote, did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. Making the call to terminate rules, regulations, and article, even those found in the Constitution, said that a year ago.
On day one.
Just a dictator for just one day. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. 844-967-2789. Let's get back to our callers. Ross from Soldiers Grove, you are up. Welcome, Ross. What do you got for us?
Hey, Ross.
Hey, you guys. Yeah, maybe like two comments. I without really knowing this Hitt guy, other than what I've listened to and learned about from you guys, I just think of him as part of this Giuliani, part of the pillow guy, part of a number of these guys that get swept up with all this political fervor. And I think they just never thought that it would ever get as bad as it did. And so I think,
I don't think he was a true believer, Ross. I think that would be giving him too much legal credit for gullibility. I don't think he was tricked.
Well,
I think he knowingly went along. He knew he was breaking some rules. He never thought he was going to get called on it. And he thought, well, hell, if this goes my guy's way, there might be a nice little appointment in it for me.
Right. Exactly right. And so he doesn't really have to, he can just sort of half ask for an excuse or half ask for a sort of a what is the word I'm trying to think of, where he because it doesn't really matter if he admits complete guilt. If he says, look, I was lying to you the whole time, I was just in it for, he doesn't have to say that, because the way the court case went or whatever, he doesn't really have to admit it. But we all know that he's smart enough to know. The only other comment I was going to make was regarding, I think, with Trump and his little poisoning the blood comment about immigration. I really feel like, in the past I've used the Nazi word, but I think that is kind of strong. But I think we're watching America walk towards a fascist system, or at least a fascist type of government within our democratic way, however that's going to work out, because Trump knows that he can say these comments because he doesn't really have to worry about losing Republican voters. Americans are fairly patriotic, especially the old style Republicans, the Paul Ryans, the Mitt Romneys, the whatchamacallit, I forget the guy from Arizona. Those old style Republicans are so darn patriotic that they're gonna vote. And it would, what would it take? What would Trump have to say to get those people to say?
Yeah, I mean, Ross, thank you for the call. We're going to run out of time. I don't just interject, though. Some of those very patriotic Republicans you speak of, they're not voting for Donald Trump. They've come out against him very strongly, at least now, if not then.
Come on, join us. It would feel so much better to not vote for Donald Trump. Be on the good team. It's too much losing.
So much
844-967-2789.
For the Maggie Dawn Show on Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. A blustery day in southeast Wisconsin. The windy weather's been causing problems for much of the day. Wind gusts got as high as 40 miles an hour at the Waukesha Airport this afternoon. Power was knocked out to as many as 3,000 homes and businesses at one point. Even some traffic lights went dark. But crews have restored electricity to practically everyone since then. Governor Evers might consider sending the National Guard into understaffed state prisons. That's what some advocates and families of inmates would like him to do. The Department of Corrections says state prisons in Wisconsin are 29% short-staffed. Advocates say that's making conditions isolated, dangerous, dirty, and generally unhealthy behind bars. Evers' office has not indicated what he might do. I'm Terry Bell. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. A Cottage Grove family is reminding people to be on the lookout for pet scams this holiday season. After initially paying $1,100 for a beagle at the site Porto Beagle, the couple says that the supposed seller kept asking for more money and the dog never arrived. Officials with the Federal Trade Commission say that if you are looking to purchase a pet online, you should request an in-person or video visit with the animal before you send them any money. Over 100 people gathered at the University of Wisconsin-Madison's Glass Lab Saturday for their annual Blow Your Own Glass event. It's run every year by the student organization running the Glass Lab, the Mad Gaffers. People were able to blow their own Christmas ornament, a process that takes about 20 minutes. Once the ornament is blown and a design is chosen, it takes about 12 hours for them to harden. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggehout, WMDX News.
Hey, Darcy, I just saw the perfect house. Can you help me write an offer on it?
I'd be happy to, Brian. Did you see it at an open house?
No, I just called the sign and had the agent show it to me. I didn't want to bug you.
Right. How many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
All of them?
You called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So...
You need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Bucks basketball on tap. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Milwaukee Bucks homestand continues with 2 more games. They host the Spurs tomorrow night, then the Orlando Magic on Thursday. Milwaukee with a 4-game winning streak. NFL, the Packers lost 34-20 to Tampa Bay. Quarterback Baker Mayfield had played at Lambeau Field with 2 other teams, the Browns and the Rams, and in his 3rd consecutive trip to Green Bay, he finally got a win with the Buccaneers.
3rd time's a charm, that's for sure. Just our team was really prepared to come in here, mentality to come in here with one job in mind and just find a way to win.
Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns, 381 yards through the air, and a perfect quarterback rating of 158.3. I spoke to his favorite target, Chris Godwin, who had 10 catches for 155 yards.
Like I said, we got a lot of grit on this team.
Is it just me, or somewhere about 20 yards downfield off tackle, there's a spot with your name on it? What was going on today?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Tonight, a mostly clear sky, a low in the upper teens. And for tomorrow, a mostly sunny day. Highs to the mid-30s with less wind. Sunshine near 40 degrees Wednesday. A mostly cloudy day for Thursday, slight rain chance late. Highs in the low 40s. Currently, it's 19 degrees.
If you're craving the authentic flavors of Mexico, the place to be in Madison is Casa Fiesta. With over 2 decades of culinary expertise, their passionate chef is ready to tantalize your taste buds, and their friendly staff ensures a fantastic dining experience. Plus, get your sing-on with Mexican and American karaoke every Friday and Saturday nights. Casa Fiesta opens 7 days a week at 7005 Tree Lane in Madison. Call 608-203-5998. Casa Fiesta, where good times and great food come together.
Broadcasting from Civic Media Global Headquarters on State Street. This is Mad Radio 92.6.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling into the Monday happy hour. Dom, Philip Bump over at the Washington Post tells me the issue isn't Hitler. The issue is the right's shift since 2015. Primarily on immigration. I want to put some of this out for the record and also remind you, this show is always great when you participate at 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. That's a Devil's Advocates original, is it not, Dom?
Yeah, baby. I came up with it all by myself.
Mark Short, who served as Vice President Mike Pence, Chief of Staff during the Trump administration, has in the past been critical of his former boss's former boss.
A lot of former
when Donald-
bossing going on there.
Well, his former boss, Mike Pence's former boss, is Trump, right? And when Donald Trump disparaged former cabinet official Elaine Chao, who resigned from Trump's administration after the Capitol riot, Short noted that the comments constituted a racial slur. In response to comments over the weekend in which the former president raged that immigrants were poisoning the blood of the United States, though, Short offered a figurative shrug. Trump has an advantage over President Biden in the polls, Short noted. And besides, here's Mark Short's quote, Dom. I think it's highly unlikely that Donald Trump has ever read Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler's 1925 manifesto. This had the effect of neutralizing a central focus of the criticism Trump has faced for his comments, that they echo Hitler's rhetoric. But of course, if you discount and say, well, yeah, but he never read a book.
Well, that's even, I don't know what's worse. Say he doesn't know what he's saying. Let's say he doesn't know that the words that are coming out of his mouth are, in fact, very similar to some of the worst dictator, authoritarian, fascist types that have ever walked the earth. You know what I'm saying? So that means it's coming from him organically. You know what I mean? That means he really, really means it. It's not that he read it. If he didn't read it, he's coming up with it on his own. But at the end of the day, authoritarian racism is not anything new.
Dom, but that's not the issue, according to this article, in part because it's relatively easy, as it was for Short, to otherwise differentiate Trump from the German dictator. The issue instead is that Trump's language, somehow how much and how far hostility to immigration has evolved and grown in the United States, thanks largely to Trump himself. The 2016 presidential election was a crucial pivot point in American history, not only because of Trump's unexpected victory, it was a period in which extreme right gained new power and prominence. Again, not only because Trump won, that included extreme anti-immigrant rhetoric. In 2014, there was a surge in immigration to the United States, driven by young people seeking safety from violence in Central America. The Obama administration scrambled to contain, and Republicans were eager to exacerbate the Democratic president's difficulty. But that didn't occur in a vacuum. It happened as violence in the Middle East pushed immigrants into Europe, stoking anti-immigrant sentiment there. It came at a point when the Republican Party was already facing backlash from its base in the form of the still potent Tea Party, a backlash focused on undermining the party's establishment. It also came as the establishment trying to figure out how to respond to the first black president, right, Dom? Barack Obama's unexpected 2012 election was exploring taking a more lenient approach to immigration. And all of this occurred as Americans were newly cognizant of how the country's demography was changing. The Census Bureau's determination that white Americans would lose majority status in future decades, it says here, Dom, lit a fuse on concerns about immigration, in which demographers' description, a determination that overlapped with Obama's election in the first place. So you got your first black president, you got some scary stuff coming from the census people that, we're going to be a white minority nation soon.
I mean, that's scary to some folks, I guess.
Trump didn't generate hostility to immigration from thin air when he announced his candidacy in 2015. He was echoing and elevating what had already been burbling in right-wing media. Immigration was a clear dividing point between establishment and fringe Republicans. And Trump's rhetoric was a clear message to that growing, powerful fringe. Post-election analysis determined that the news outlet that earned the most shares from Republicans and those on the right during the 2016 cycle wasn't Fox News, which had long been closely allied to the establishment. Do you know what number one was, Tom?
Yes. Breitbart.
Breitbart.
Breitbart. I'll jump in here, Crudy. From 2013 to 2016, nearly 6% of Breitbart articles indexed by Google mentioned immigration or the border. At Fox News' website, it was less than 0.5%. 0.5%. Breitbart's executive chairman, Steve Bannon, went to work for Trump after he was inaugurated as president. His rhetoric mirrored that of his site. Immigration was one of his focal points in the White House. This was someone who had lamented that a fifth of the country was made up of immigrants, which it wasn't and isn't. Bannon was further down the fringe right track than Trump, but the president was following behind. Trump's election empowered anti-immigrant voices, as was manifested in Charlottesville in August of 2017. White nationalists rallied there, at one point chanting, "The Jews will not replace us." The us was white people, and the chant too was just a bit ahead on the path. Trump's election marked the end of the battle between the establishment and the right-wing fringe. The fringe had won. The establishment fought to demonstrate its fealty to Trump's base, which meant the most right-wing elements of the electorate. That included Fox News. The channel, eager to appeal to Trump's loyal constituency, shifted to focus more heavily on immigration. That included boosting Trump's efforts in the middle of his administration to build a wall and repeatedly elevating concerns about immigrants shortly after elections. In the same month that Trump won the election, the network elevated Tucker Carlson to host a primetime show. Carlson, like Bannon, spoke the language of the fringe right, even if it wasn't as apparent at the outset. He and his team, which included several people later linked to white nationalism, increasingly elevated framing and stories that were popular in fringe right and anti-immigrant conversations. That framing would trickle up to the White House. It was Carlson who made up the great replacement theory, the idea that nefarious actors were intentionally trying to bring immigrants to the United States to shift the country's demography, a subject of national conversation. The idea quickly gained traction with Republican voters and, by extension, with Republican officials eager to appeal to that base. It wasn't usually the Jews won't replace us, just that they wouldn't in some form or another. Then the issue of immigration became more salient. After a pandemic-related lull in 2020, Trump lost re-election. Joe Biden became president. The number of people seeking to come to the United States soared, though the numbers are often exaggerated, including by Trump. Fox News began covering immigration breathlessly. The channel has already mentioned immigration, immigrants, or the border 6% more often than it did during the entirety of Trump's time in office. After mentioning immigration less than CNN and MSNBC under Trump, it has mentioned it 75% more often than his two competitors combined since Biden became president in 2021. Just as he did the outset of his 2016 campaign, Trump quickly leaned into anti-immigrant rhetoric as his 2024 bid began to gear up. But now that rhetoric has shifted dramatically to the right. His 2015 disparagements of criminal immigrants coming into the country have become entirely unabashed. My apologies. His extreme White House-era claims offered in support of building a wall, like the threat of terrorist incursions, have become background noise. He'd occasionally describe immigrants in dehumanizing terms as president. He seemingly has no qualms about doing so regularly now. This is what's important. It's not that Trump is saying things Hitler did, though he is. It's that he's doing so as someone who has promised his heavily white base retribution, quote unquote, and who has made obvious his intent to step outside the bounds of presidential power when he can. He's using his rhetoric as he and his aides reportedly discuss how to deploy the military against immigrants, including building internment camps. He's again reflecting the verbiage of the fringe. That verbiage has shifted well to the right over the past 8 years. Trump fought tooth and nail to constrain and demonize immigrants as president, but hit walls both internally and externally. Now he knows how to get around the internal barriers more easily, and the external debate is now unfolding on a much friendlier, more extreme terrain. It's that, not simply the comparisons to Hitler's rhetoric, that's worrisome. Writes Philip Bump over at the Washington Post. And I gotta, it's almost like, oh, it's just another thing he said today. Oh, here we go again, over and over. You hear it. The first time I was like, oh my God, that's shocking, it's terrible. And then I was like, 5 years later, oh, he said that again. It's normalizing, and we can't let it be normalized.
As Jack from the Mac writes on the text line, I agree. Trump probably hasn't read Mein Kampf. I doubt he ever read anything that's not 90% pictures. but he probably stole the lines from his fascist Proud Boy or Oath Keeper buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's another keen observation from the 608. 50% of lawyers graduated in the bottom of their class.
Yeah.
And Trump gets the best people, doesn't he, Dom?
He sure does.
844-967-2789. Dick, welcome back. What do you got for us, Dick?
Hey, Dick.
You know how we're constantly supposed to try and understand that other side. You know, about a week and a half ago, he gave a speech in which he said that the Mexican military built the wall. I'm sure you guys had heard this one. They built it and paid for it.
Oh, yeah?
To prove these people are such zombies to sit there and lap up anything, then he goes into the next rant is, if I'm reelected, I'll take care of this border crisis. Well, you just said you did. You built the wall, the panacea for everything. But just something fascinating I found that proves this party's been kind of vulnerable to this type of thing, might I say, for a long time. I found this old article from 1963.
Easy, you're starting to sound like Dave from Mequon, but go ahead.
Well, this is classic.
All right.
Here's what William F. Buckley said about Eisenhower. That it's now clear we're away from the burden of him, but the best one in here is switching from Kennedy to Rockefeller would be like leaving spoiled diapers on a baby and changing the safety pins. I mean, this is a whole article on the John Birch Society and all of that nonsense that was going on in the early 60s. And it's scary stuff. It's some of the weirdest stuff. I haven't read the whole thing, but I'm going to read it. And it's weird. It's out there.
Do you have it in paper form, Dick?
Yes, I do. It was in.
Because I feel like I'm learning a lot about you, Dick. You're apparently a hoarder. You've got articles from 1963 in your home.
I was out visiting in Kansas City over a long weekend. Went out there last Thursday.
You got hoarder friends in the KC area?
Yes, yes, I do. And we went into one of these antique stores.
Yeah.
And this thing just jumped off the page, or off the thing that says, "The radical right invades the GOP."
And what year was that? That's the headline. What year is that, Dick?
It's from the summer before the 64 election. It's from July of 1963.
Yeah.
I was 7 years old. It's crazy. I have to read the whole thing. I mean, it's just beyond belief what these little things. And Buckley's in it, and so is the founder of the John Birch Society. And it's a long article. It's like 4 pages.
Don't read it all in one sitting, Dick.
It's gonna take a long time in the bathroom to get through that one, Dick.
I'm still working on the Mueller report.
But to the point, though, right? I mean, it's not like this is the first conversation we've had, or this country has gone through about the extreme right taking over the GOP. I mean, this isn't. It's new to us because we're living it now. But these questions have been asked and answered in the past, and hopefully, with the hindsight of history, we won't have to go through what we went through in order to purge fascism from our ranks in the past.
Did you say asked and answered?
Asked
I got a. Sure you did. I got a full color flyer from my congressman at the Love Shack. I'm going to tell you about it when we come back. And last chance for your calls, 844-96-PARTY.
Welcome to the Lazy Oaf Lounge, Madison's East Side place for friends and family to meet for fun and food. Stop in for great daily lunch specials, soups made from scratch, and jaw-dropping burgers, wraps, and sandwiches. Plus Friday fish fry and homemade pizza cooked in a classic stone hearth pizza oven. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road in Madison. Follow them on Facebook or at lazyoaflounge.com.
Want to party to and from the next Packers or Bucks home game? Want to rent a party bus or 360 photo booth for a wedding, birthday, or special event? Call Gabriel the promoter today at 414-944-1704. Rent Hercules, the full-size party bus with lights, sounds, and dance floor to transport the party to the party. The best 360 photo booth in Madison is also here with Gabriel the promoter. Check out all social medias at Gabriel Promotes or give him a call directly. That's Gabriel the promoter at 414-944.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for playing along. You can join us on our last segment today at 844-967-2789. But don't touch that dial. Maggie Dawn, the Maggie Dawn Show coming up at 6 o'clock.
She's damn good, Dom. Kind of like this shiny, full color flyer for my Lake Shack, Love Shack Congressman Glenn Grothman up in the 6th CD.
Yeah, nothing
Great
says
state
love.
of Wisconsin.
Nothing says Love Shack like a big full color picture of Glenn Grothman, Congressman Grothman.
Well, here's what he claims, Tom. He's investigating potential corruption, like the IRS whistleblower testimony regarding IRS alleged foul play in the Hunter Biden investigation.
What?
He's also down for Glenn Grothman, my Love Shack congressman, is down for exposing the crisis at the southern border. Now,
I know. All those Wisconsinites running to Illinois to get that legal weed. It's a problem. We could just legalize it here, Glenn, and not have to worry about that southern border.
Tear down your wall. Protecting Israel and the people of faith. Well, that seems noble, except I believe Ron Johnson, your colleague, is kind of blocking the whole works. And then, Dom, a little constituent survey. Just a couple questions, and we'll get back to the phones. 844-967-2789. Please complete and return this survey today. Very handsome Glenn Grothman. Button that top button, Congressman. But anyways.
Is he wearing a tie?
He is.
What color is the tie?
Red and blue stripe.
stripe.
Light blue.
Okay.
And banker pinstripe. And then just sort of a lost look on his face, like, look over here. Where's
the meatloaf?
Please complete the survey. Once finished, use a first-class stamp
What?
and drop it in the mail.
Oh, yeah. Give me more
Dom,
money.
What issue is most important to you? Securing the border, balancing the budget, protecting the Second Amendment, fixing our economy, lowering inflation, cutting government regulation, and there's an other category. So I'm going to use the other category to say helping Congressman Glenn Grothman lose his virginity. I'd really like to, Glenn, this should be your year, 2024. Let's make it your year, Glenn.
Sounds like risky business to me, man.
Here's another one. Do you support sending financial aid to Israel for their national defense? Yes, no, unsure. And finally, Dom, the federal government is borrowing about 22% of its budget, an unsustainable amount. Knowing this, would you agree to cuts in the Department of Education, Green New Deal initiatives? These are all Democratic programs he wants to cut, you'll note. Tax credits for electric cars. Ooh, national defense on there. Welfare, of course, pick on poor people. They're causing the budget deficits. Bureaucrats promoting divisive diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
Yeah, man, how dare you talk about how tough people of color have had it in this country.
And then, subsidies to local governments. And then
is there an option to repeal the Bush and Trump tax cuts?
No,
that's not in there.
You'd have to create an other category.
Okay,
like I did.
Other.
Helping Glenn lose his virginity in 2024.
That's
I'm
very
putting that
sweet.
down as
That's very sweet of you, man.
I mean, we met Glenn. I asked him this question. Haven't you ever chased a teenage girl around the backseat of your dad's car? Because he's very anti-abortion and, women should all have the babies. And I was trying to get a real life example. Glenn, have you never fooled around in the backseat of dad's car? And that's when Glenn left the studio and said something to the effect, no, I'm sorry, I got to leave now. I got a fundraiser in Fond du Lac.
It's an interesting way to bring up a question to humanize it, I guess.
I was trying to
I'll tell you
meet
what,
Glenn where he is.
If you're going to be the one to help Glenn lose his virginity, I support you and appreciate you, and I respect you.
It may take a trip to Nevada in the legal
Oh.
brothel industry.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were just going to help him out.
Wait. Here's a quote, and then we'll get to the callers. Appreciate your patience. Holding President Biden and his administration accountable is one of my most important duties as your representative in Congress. Apparently the only one. Extreme liberal policies are threatening our Wisconsin values and way of life. I hope you will take the time to learn how I'm leading efforts to get us back on track. Glenn Grothman, the Trumpiest Trumpster in the U.S. Congress. Mathematically speaking, 844-967-2789. Appreciate your patience. Annie from Watertown, welcome back.
Hi, Annie.
Never mind the numbers, but I'm just thinking, just the question, are you for or against a president who breaks the law? That would even be on a polling question in the United States of America is just, in itself pretty wild. I don't know, thinking, can't get out of my head.
Where do you think Glenn Grothman would come down on that scale? Is he for-y or against-y?
Well, if it happened in the backseat of a car, he'd be against it.
What if it happened on Capitol Hill on January 6th and it was his guy trying to overturn the election? Would he be for it then?
Well, he wasn't there. He doesn't know.
Yes, and they never see any of Trump's Twitter and
Right,
or read any of the bad stuff he
we
says
can't
about
talk about the
Berman.
language, Annie. It's all about the results. Which is, so real quick, and thank you for the call, Annie. What was it? It was Senator Lindsey Graham was and he was asked about the terminology, the phrasing, the verbiage. Donald Trump over the weekend continuing to talk about the poisoning the blood, this very fascistic Nazi kind of talk. And his response is, well, it's just not, the language. It's really about the results. I'm thinking to myself, first thing that popped in my head, it's like, remember what they used to say about Mussolini? Hey, they kept the trains on time. You know what I'm saying? What, dude? Are you got to be kidding me? Of course it's about the language. 844-967-2789. Stephen from Green Bay, you will have the last word today. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Stephen.
Hey, I just gotta say, Glenn Grothman maybe should go south of the border and get some of that wacky tobacco, and he would be enlightened.
He's not for the legalization of the recreational marijuana. We've asked him through the years.
Well, he's not for a lot of things that make sense, so I'm not surprised. I will say this about Glenn Grothman. I used to live in his district that he represents, and I don't live there anymore because it's a very scary place to be. A lot of conservatives, and me being a liberal, I had to get out of there as soon as I could. And then I moved to Green Bay, which is just as bad. So I don't know what I did, but that's all I got to say.
You can't fear our conservative friends. You just got to show them a better way. I think it all starts with getting Glenn Grothman laid for 2024.
And listening to the Devil's Advocates, man. Tell all your friends. Some say the greatest radio show ever.